She walked through the door with that familiar smirk, the kind that had always made me question whether she was teasing or testing me. "You'll never find better," she said, voice dripping with confidence, as if she owned the world and everyone in it. I didn't flinch. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I studied her carefully, the way her eyes darted for a reaction, the slight tension in her jaw, the certainty she projected. It had been weeks since we last spoke, weeks in which I had taken a step back from the games, the manipulations, and the endless cycle of proving myself. I had learned that power isn't demanded or flaunted. It's quietly earned, and most importantly, it's never dependent on someone else's approval. Her smirk was an attempt, an assertion of dominance she thought she still held. But this time the rules had changed. I thought back to all the times I had given her the benefit of the doubt, bending myself to her expectations, trying to maintain harmony while my needs quietly dissolved in the background. Every compliment she withheld, every subtle insult masked as advice, every manipulative tease, they had accumulated, shaping a new understanding in me. And now, standing in front of her, I realized the irony. She had underestimated the strength I had quietly built over months of self-reflection and calculated distance. I smiled back faintly, almost imperceptibly, not out of arrogance, not out of mockery, but because I had prepared for this moment mentally, emotionally, and strategically. The smirk was hers, but the power in the room had shifted. I didn't need to speak to assert control. My posture, my calm demeanor, the absence of reaction, it all communicated the truth. I was no longer playing by her rules. For years I had been reactive, adjusting to her moods, her comments, her expectations. But in these past weeks, I had learned the art of observation, of patience, of letting others reveal themselves while I remained untouchable. Every glance she threw, every subtle movement was a test. And I passed silently, letting the tension build without giving her the satisfaction of a visible response. She lingered in the doorway, smirk still in place, as if waiting for a reaction that would never come. "You really think you can do better?" she asked, trying to provoke, to bait me into an argument, into proving myself. I didn't respond. My calm was deliberate. In every relationship, every interaction she had with me, she had relied on one thing: my need to validate her, to chase approval. That need had vanished. The truth is, I had spent weeks focusing on myself, rebuilding boundaries, reclaiming my sense of worth, and learning to thrive outside the constant cycle of manipulation. I had realized that her confidence was a mask, carefully constructed to hide insecurity and fear of being irrelevant. And now her words, meant to intimidate, only revealed her anxiety. I took a slow step forward, deliberately measured, and met her gaze with quiet certainty. "Better?" I asked softly, letting the word hang in the air. The challenge was hers, but the control had shifted. I didn't need to list accomplishments, prove charm, or flaunt anything. My presence alone, calm and unshaken, spoke volumes. I had learned that silence and patience can be more powerful than any argument. She tried again, a sharper tone, a little edge of desperation creeping into her voice. "You'll regret this," she said, leaning closer, as if proximity could intimidate me. But I didn't move, didn't flinch. My life no longer revolved around her approval or manipulation. For years I had compromised, adjusted, and sought harmony that never existed. Now the balance had shifted, and she was left exposed, waiting for a reaction that wouldn't come. I let the moment stretch, allowing her tension to build, knowing the psychological weight of anticipation would do what confrontation could not. Every smirk, every confident assertion from her side, was slowly unraveling, revealing vulnerability beneath the arrogance. And then in that quiet moment I made my move. Not loud, not dramatic, but deliberate. I smiled, not to tease, not to mock, but because I had finally regained control, finally reclaimed my life from someone who had used confidence as a weapon. Her expression faltered, the smirk cracking slightly as the realization hit her. She had expected resistance, debate, or panic, but none came. What I did next wasn't flashy or vindictive. It was the quiet, undeniable assertion of independence, the ultimate statement that I no longer needed validation or approval from anyone. I stepped fully into the room, keeping my movements calm, deliberate. Her eyes searched mine, trying to read the reaction she had expected for years: frustration, panic, pleading. But she found none. My smile remained quiet, confident, and unshaken. You said I'd never find better, I said softly, letting the words land. Maybe you were right, but I no longer need to prove it to anyone. She blinked, the smirk fading, replaced by a flash of confusion and unease. The subtle shift in energy was palpable. For the first time, the woman who had always relied on manipulation and charm to control the narrative realized she no longer held the strings. She tried one last time, voice trembling slightly. Are you serious? I nodded calmly. Completely. I don't need your approval or your games anymore. In that moment, a quiet power settled over the room. All the years of subtle manipulation, all the time she had wielded confidence like a weapon, had led to this moment of exposure. She had underestimated the strength that patience, observation, and self-respect could build in someone who had been pushed to the edge. My calm, my quiet assertion of autonomy had done what arguments and confrontations never could. Later, as I walked away from the encounter, I felt a clarity that I hadn't experienced in years. Freedom isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet removal of yourself from someone else's control, the deliberate choice to not engage on their terms. She had expected a reaction, a chase, a plea. Instead, she faced silence, patience, and resolve. And that, more than anything, stunned her. By the end of the week, the tension had dissolved. Her confident smirks and subtle threats ceased. She realized that the power she once thought she held was gone, and no amount of words or posturing could reclaim it. I had not humiliated her. I had not gossiped or retaliated. I had simply reclaimed myself, my peace, and my boundaries. Sometimes the most stunning actions aren't loud or dramatic. They are quiet, deliberate, and firm. They come from a place of self-respect and clarity, the unshakable understanding that you don't need someone else to define your worth. She returned smirking, expecting to intimidate. I left her stunned, not with confrontation, but with the quiet, undeniable strength of someone who finally stood entirely for themselves.